Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. The night was quiet, the kind of silence that makes every creak of the floorboard sound like a whisper. I had just turned off the lamp, wrapping myself under the blanket, when I heard the softest knock on my bedroom door. Before I could answer, it opened just enough for a sliver of warm hallway light to spill across my sheets. "Are you still awake?" His voice was low, uncertain. It was my stepdad. I hesitated. "Yeah, kind of," I murmured, sitting up slightly. The air felt heavier somehow. He stepped inside, wearing an old gray t-shirt, his hair tousled like he hadn't been able to sleep either. "I couldn't sleep," he said with a half-smile, rubbing the back of his neck. "Mind if I stay here for a bit? I just don't want to be alone right now." My heart skipped. It wasn't the first time he'd said something like that since Mom started working night shifts, but tonight felt different. The space between us seemed to shrink as he sat on the edge of my bed. The mattress dipped, pulling me closer without meaning to. I could feel the warmth radiating from him, a strange comfort that made me both nervous and aware of how close we were. His hand brushed against mine accidentally. Or maybe not. My breath caught in my throat as he looked at me, really looked. His eyes lingered, soft, searching, like he was trying to say something but couldn't find the right words. "Sorry," he whispered, pulling his hand back slightly, though not all the way. "Didn't mean to make you uncomfortable." "I'm not," I said before I could stop myself. The words hung in the air like a secret neither of us was supposed to admit. For a moment, the world outside didn't exist, just the rhythm of my heartbeat echoing in my ears and the quiet sound of his breathing beside me. A storm of emotions flickered between us, confusion, curiosity, and something dangerously close to longing. Then, just as I thought he was about to say something, the hallway light flickered off. Darkness swallowed the room, leaving only our shallow breaths in the silence. "Maybe we should talk about this," he said softly. But his voice trembled, and I couldn't tell if he meant right now or never. The bed shifted again, closer this time. My pulse raced. And in that instant, I realized something was about to happen. To be continued. He wasn't always like this, quiet, unsure, and distant. When Mom first introduced him 2 years ago, he had the kind of energy that filled a room. Charming, thoughtful, the kind of man who remembered small things, like how I took my coffee or what song I listened to on repeat. He wasn't trying to be a father, he was just kind. Too kind, maybe. Back then, it was easy to like him. He made Mom laugh again, something I hadn't seen in years. But over time, the laughter faded. Arguments started replacing movie nights. Whispers behind closed doors turned into long silences that echoed through the house. I'd catch glimpses, him staring out the window late at night, her leaving early in the morning without saying goodbye. And somehow, between all that emptiness, he and I became the only two people who actually talked anymore. It began innocently, sharing dinner when Mom worked late, joking about bad TV shows, or him asking about my college plans. But beneath it all, there was always something else, a quiet pull neither of us acknowledged. Sometimes, when he laughed, his eyes would linger just a second too long. When he'd brush past me in the kitchen, my breath would catch, and I'd pretend it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. I remember one night when the power went out during a storm. We lit candles, sat in the living room, and talked for hours. He told me about how lonely marriage could feel when love starts slipping through your fingers. I didn't know what to say, I just listened. But when his hand accidentally brushed against mine, neither of us moved. The thunder covered the silence between us. Since that night, I started noticing the little things, how his tone softened when he said my name, how he'd pause at my door before saying goodnight, how his smile carried a sadness he couldn't hide anymore. Now, sitting beside him on my bed, those memories felt heavier. Every heartbeat seemed to echo the question neither of us had dared to ask. He sighed, eyes fixed on the floor. You ever feel like you're in the wrong place, living someone else's life? I looked at him, unsure if he wanted an answer or just to be heard. All the time, I whispered. Our eyes met again, that same unspoken connection, the kind that shouldn't exist but did. It wasn't about crossing a line. It was about two people lost in the same emptiness, finding comfort where they shouldn't. The clock ticked louder. The space between us grew smaller. My chest tightened, not from fear, but from knowing that something inside both of us was already changing. Outside, the wind howled softly, brushing against the windows. Inside, the silence said everything we couldn't. To be continued. The air between us felt heavier now, like the room itself could sense what neither of us dared to say. His presence beside me was impossible to ignore. Every small movement, every glance, carried a charge I couldn't escape. He leaned back slightly, running a hand through his hair. Your mom texted, he said quietly. She's working late again. Something about the way he said it, tired, distant, almost bitter, made my stomach twist. You sound upset, I murmured. He gave a small laugh, one that didn't reach his eyes. Just tired of being the only one who notices when she's gone. The words hit harder than they should have. I shouldn't have cared that much, but I did. A tiny, jealous spark lit somewhere deep inside me, one I didn't want to admit was there. When he looked up, our eyes locked again. That look, the one that lingered too long, that saw too much, returned. My heartbeat quickened, loud enough I was sure he could hear it. He didn't move, but his expression softened, almost vulnerable. You shouldn't look at me like that, he whispered. I swallowed hard. Like what? He hesitated. Like I'm someone you shouldn't trust. My breath caught. The silence stretched thin, trembling with everything unspoken. The storm outside had eased, but inside, the tension only grew. When he shifted closer, the mattress dipped again. The faint scent of his cologne, woodsy, warm, filled the space between us. I could feel the heat of his arm just inches from mine, and every nerve in my body felt alive. Sometimes, he said softly, almost to himself, I wish things were different. I turned toward him, my voice barely a whisper. Maybe they already are. The words hung there, fragile and dangerous. His jaw tightened. His gaze flicked down to my lips before he caught himself and looked away, exhaling sharply as if trying to fight off whatever was pulling us closer. He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. This isn't right, he muttered, but even he didn't sound convinced. I sat there, my chest tight, torn between reason and something else, something that felt like gravity. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was the kind that meant a choice was coming. To be continued. The next evening, the house was quiet again, too quiet. Mom had texted to say she'd be staying overnight for work, and that single message seemed to hang in the air like permission neither of us wanted to acknowledge. I tried to distract myself, books, music, even scrolling through my phone, but nothing worked. Every sound from downstairs made my pulse race. When I finally went to grab a glass of water, I found him there in the kitchen, standing in the faint glow of the refrigerator light. He looked up, surprised. Couldn't sleep either? I shook my head, trying to smile. Guess it's just one of those nights. He handed me a glass, our fingers brushing briefly. That small touch felt electric, sending warmth up my arm. For a moment, neither of us moved. His eyes caught mine, steady and unreadable. The silence between us filled with everything we'd been avoiding. Then, without a word, he turned and walked toward the living room. I followed, I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted to break the tension, or maybe I just wanted to feel it one last time before something went too far. The rain outside had stopped, but the storm inside hadn't. The only light came from the faint flicker of a candle on the table, throwing soft shadows on the walls. He sat down, leaned forward, and sighed. "You ever wish you could stop feeling something?" he asked quietly. I hesitated. "Only when it feels too real." That made him look at me, really look. His gaze held 1,000 things he couldn't say. He stood, took a slow step toward me, then another. The space between us shrank until I could feel the warmth of his breath, the rhythm of his heartbeat just inches away. Time seemed to slow. My thoughts blurred. Every part of me screamed that this moment couldn't exist, but it did. He lifted his hand, as if to touch my face, then froze. His expression shifted, conflict, guilt, longing all tangled together. "Maybe we should," he started, but before he could finish, the sound of a car door slamming outside cut through the air. We froze. Mom was home early. To be continued. The sound of the car door slammed through the silence like thunder. For a heartbeat, everything stopped, the flicker of the candle, the breath between us, the moment that shouldn't have existed. His eyes widened, panic flashing through them. "She's not supposed to be home yet," he whispered, stepping back. The sudden distance felt like cold air rushing in. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. I didn't know what to say, what to do. Part of me wanted to run upstairs and pretend none of this had happened, but my legs wouldn't move. The front door creaked open, the familiar jingle of Mom's keys echoing through the hall. "Hello," her voice called out, casual, unaware. He turned toward me, face pale, whispering urgently, "Go upstairs. Now." But before I could move, Mom appeared in the doorway, hair damp from the rain, a grocery bag in one hand, eyes narrowing as she took in the scene. The candle, the 2 glasses on the table, the space between us. Her voice was low but sharp. "What's going on here?" Neither of us answered. The silence said more than words could. I could feel my pulse in my ears, my breath uneven. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, his hands trembling slightly. "It's not what you think," he finally said, voice shaking. Mom set the bag down slowly, her expression unreadable, hurt, disbelief, anger all flickering across her face. "Then tell me what I'm supposed to think," she said coldly. I tried to speak, but the words tangled in my throat. "Mom, she held up a hand, cutting me off. "Don't." Her eyes shifted to him. "You promised me we'd be honest. After everything, this is what you do?" He looked broken, guilt written across his face. "It wasn't like that," he said quietly. "It was never supposed to be like that." Tears stung my eyes. The weight of everything we hadn't said came crashing down all at once. The glances, the late-night talks, the feelings neither of us wanted, they all suddenly looked different under the harsh light of truth. Mom stepped closer, her voice trembling now. "I trusted you. Both of you." The room felt like it was spinning. I wanted to explain, to say it wasn't what it looked like, that the loneliness had blurred everything, but she turned away before I could. "Maybe I should have seen it sooner," she whispered, almost to herself. He reached for her arm. "Please, just listen, don't touch me." Her voice broke on the last word. The candlelight flickered one last time before the flame went out, plunging the room into darkness. In that silence, only the sound of her footsteps filled the air, each one echoing like the end of something we couldn't take back. To be continued. The next morning, the house felt like a battlefield after the storm, quiet, heavy, and full of things left unsaid. The faint smell of burnt candle wax lingered in the air, a reminder of the night everything came apart. Mom hadn't spoken to either of us since she walked out of the living room. I heard her bedroom door close, and it stayed that way until dawn. He slept on the couch, or tried to. I could hear him tossing, sighing, replaying everything in his mind. When I finally came downstairs, he was sitting at the kitchen table, head in his hands. The morning light through the window made him look older, tired in a way I hadn't seen before. "She's leaving," he said quietly, without looking up. My heart sank. "What?" "She packed a bag before sunrise," he continued. "Said she needs time to think. To figure out if there's anything left to save." I didn't know what to feel, guilt, fear, heartbreak. Maybe all of it at once. "I never wanted this," I whispered. He looked up then, eyes red and tired. "Neither did I. But wanting and doing are two different things. And I crossed that line, even if nothing really happened." Tears filled my eyes. "You didn't," he shook his head. "It doesn't matter. She saw enough. And I let it get this far." The silence that followed was unbearable. The kitchen clock ticked, each second stretching like a lifetime. "I should go," he said finally, standing up slowly. "Give her space." "Give you space. Where will you go?" He smiled faintly, a sad, broken kind of smile. "I don't know. Maybe somewhere quiet. Somewhere I can remember who I was before all this." Something in me broke then. I stood, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. "You don't have to leave because of me." He hesitated, his voice rough. "That's exactly why I have to." The weight of the truth hung between us, what we'd done, what we hadn't, and everything we almost became. There was love in it, but also regret. He took one last look at me before walking to the door. "Take care of her," he said softly. "She deserves better than this. Better than me." I nodded, unable to speak. The sound of the door closing echoed through the house like a full stop at the end of a story we never meant to write. I sank into the chair he'd just left, my heart aching and strangely calm. Outside, the first light of day broke through the clouds, soft, fragile, full of endings and beginnings. Maybe some stories weren't meant to last forever. But they still change you, forever. To be continued. The days after he left felt endless. The house was quieter than ever, Mom barely spoke, and I moved through each room as if walking through someone else's life. Every sound, every smell, every memory still held his presence. But time has a strange way of softening things. Weeks passed. Mom and I started talking again, slowly, carefully. She never mentioned that night, and I didn't either. It was as if we had silently agreed to rebuild without revisiting the wreckage. Then one evening, I came home to find her sitting at the table, a small smile tugging at her lips. "He called," she said simply. My heart stopped. "He did?" She nodded. "He's been staying with his brother. Said he needed time to think." She paused, searching my face. "He wants to come by, to apologize. To make things right." I didn't know what to say, only that my pulse quickened in a way I couldn't hide. When he arrived the next day, everything felt different. He looked lighter, calmer, as if the weight he'd been carrying had finally lifted. Mom met him at the door. Their conversation was quiet, too quiet for me to hear, but the look in her eyes when she finally smiled told me enough. Afterward, when he turned and saw me standing at the edge of the hallway, his expression softened. "Hey," he said, almost whispering. "Hey," I replied. We stood there for a moment, not in guilt or tension anymore, but in something closer to understanding. "I needed to say thank you," he said. "For making me realize what I almost ruined. For helping me see what matters." I smiled faintly. "I guess we both learned something." He stepped closer, just enough for me to see the sincerity in his eyes. "You helped me find my way back," he said. "That means more than you know." And for the first time, there was peace between us. No confusion, no hidden tension, just warmth. A bond built not on what might have been, but on forgiveness and growth. Mom joined us then, placing a gentle hand on his arm. "We'll be okay," she said softly, looking at both of us. The evening sun streamed through the window, bathing the room in golden light. For the first time in months, it felt like home again. Sometimes love doesn't end in the way you expect. Sometimes it becomes something purer, a deeper understanding of connection, forgiveness, and second chances. As the light faded and laughter slowly returned to our house, I realized something simple and true: love, in all its complicated forms, still finds a way to heal. The end.